Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving headfirst into an explosive internal rebellion unfolding right now inside the world's most sophisticated blockchain. We're talking about a fundamental crisis of identity and economics within the Ethereum ecosystem, and a radical billion-dollar proposition designed to fix it. If you've been keeping an eye on the crypto markets lately, you know something fundamental has shifted. So today, we're mapping out exactly what is going on behind closed doors. Let's start with a staggering number. 0.1%. That is the tiny, almost microscopic fraction of the total Ethereum supply currently held by the Ethereum Foundation. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter? Well, it means they have virtually zero financial skin in the game. They don't get staking revenue, they don't get fee revenue. If the price of ETH totally tanks, the Foundation's structural mechanics honestly don't even feel the burn. And that brings us to why this explainer is so incredibly urgent. On May 21st, 2026, the Ultimate Foundation insider dropped an absolute bombshell. Dankrad Feist openly admitted the project strategy is structurally broken. He told the entire community that if Ethereum wants to survive and get back to a winning trajectory, it desperately needs an organization that actually has skin in the game, one that is economically aligned and strictly held accountable. Section 1. The Architect's Rebellion. Now, what's fascinating here is that this criticism isn't coming from some anonymous internet troll or a disgruntled day trader. We're talking about Dankrad Feist, the researcher who literally designed how Ethereum scales. The entire long-term data scaling roadmap, Dank sharding, yeah, it's named after him. He co-authored the massive EIP 4844 upgrade. This is someone Vitalik Buterin himself publicly called an excellent researcher whose contributions have been immensely valuable. When the primary architect of your network says the strategy's failing, you absolutely have to listen. And Feist isn't just suggesting a minor tweak. He is proposing a permanent $1 billion war chest denominated entirely in ETH. Think about that scale. At a roughly 4% staking yield, this treasury would generate about $40 million a year in a perpetual operating budget. This new organization would have an explicit, unapologetic mandate to support ETH's competitive position and its price. And it would be governed by a board of directors who actually want to get in the trenches and fight for market share. Section 2. The ETH is dead era. To understand why an insider would propose something so extreme, we have to look at the brutal economic trauma the network has faced recently. Over a 2-year window, Ethereum dropped nearly 44%, while Bitcoin actually rose almost 12%. The Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio completely bled out, collapsing by almost half. The harsh reality is that while Bitcoin issuers like Wall Street giants BlackRock and Fidelity functionally act as a free marketing department for Bitcoin, Ethereum has watched its competitive narrative evaporate. Simply put, nobody is financially incentivized to champion it in the same way. The tokenomic failure crippling Ethereum's whole ultrasound money thesis is frankly staggering. Look, Ethereum's Dankrad upgrade did its job technically. It cut Layer 2 transaction costs by over 90%. But economically, it was devastating. Take Base, Coinbase's Layer 2 network, for example. In 2025, Base generated over $94 million in profit, but they paid just $4.9 million in blob fees back to the Ethereum mainnet for security. Layer 2 networks are essentially extracting massive profits while starving the very base layer that keeps them secure. And alongside this collapsing economic model, there is a very real human cost. The Foundation is bleeding top engineering talent just when the network is struggling the most. Core developer headcount dropped from around 225 in May 2025 down to just 169 a year later. High-profile names have walked away, including the co-executive director. This massive drain of institutional knowledge creates a huge vulnerability for the whole ecosystem. Section 3. The cypherpunk problem. What we are witnessing right now is a stark ideological civil war. On one side, you have the Foundation's CROPS mandate, which stands for censorship resistance, open source, privacy, and security. They follow what's called the subtraction path, meaning they actively try to make themselves obsolete and perfectly neutral. They explicitly state they are not a marketing agency. But on the exact opposite side, you have Feist's proposal, a billion-dollar war chest focused entirely on commercial advocacy, fighting back and ensuring market dominance. The consequence of just hoping superior engineering will naturally win is brutally clear in the data. Solana's well-funded commercial machine has now successfully overtaken Ethereum in hobbyist developer mindshare, leading 28-24. While Solana ran massive conferences, funded teams globally, and explicitly courted developers, Ethereum just kind of rested on the assumption that credible neutrality would be enough. Well, the data shows that assumption failed.
Section 4. The Internal Civil War.
Unsurprisingly, this billion-dollar idea has split the Ethereum ecosystem right down the middle, and the pushback has been fierce. Critics, like consensus researcher Potts, rightly point out the massive risk here. They warn that an economically aligned billion-dollar fund could easily capture the network's governance. And if that happens, Ethereum just becomes another corporate chain. It would entirely destroy the decentralized, neutral ethos that is arguably Ethereum's very last true differentiator. But here is a crazy $40 million plot twist. Another Ethereum veteran, Danny Ryan, just raised exactly $40 million for his firm, Etherealize, to build what is essentially Feist's proposal on a smaller scale. Backed by institutional capital and aimed directly at institutional onboarding, it proves that the market actually wants this corporate, commercially aligned approach to champion Ethereum. Yet, as the community absolutely tears itself apart debating the subtraction path versus the war chest, the loudest signal of all is the absolute silence from Ethereum's co-founder Vitalik Buterin. He provided seed support for Danny Ryan's smaller play, but he has neither publicly endorsed nor rejected Feist's massive billion-dollar proposal. This total silence leaves everyone guessing which philosophical camp he actually supports for the long haul. Section 5. 5 Signals to Watch. To wrap this up, let's lay out the precise market signals you need to monitor over the next 12 months. Keep your eyes firmly on these 5 practical metrics. First, watch if that ETH to BTC ratio finally stops bleeding. Second, track whether real ETH actually gets locked into a verifiable treasury, or if this whole thing just fades into Twitter history. Third, monitor Danny Ryan's project. If that stalls out, a billion-dollar version is dead on arrival. Fourth, see if the upcoming Glamsterdam upgrade actually gets proper marketing. And finally, keep checking that foundation departure list. If developers keep leaving, the credibility argument totally collapses. I want to leave you with this provocative final thought. Has the Foundation's cypherpunk neutrality strategy permanently cost Ethereum this cycle to aggressive, well-funded competitors? Or is this billion-dollar proposal the precise moment the sleeping giant finally wakes up and fights back? Pay close attention to those 5 signals, because the outcome of this internal rebellion is going to dictate the future of the entire network. Thanks for joining me today on The Explainer.